You're listening to Making a Living Show. I'm Roby Levy.
Hi, my name is Peter Bond, and I make creature puppet films for a living.
Overcoming years of severe depression and medication caused by a head injury at the age of 8, Peter Bond rediscovered his creativity in adulthood after having kids. He's gone on to create award-winning creatures, plays, and films, and has been featured on Jimmy Kimmel Live and PBS's Indie America. Here's my chat with Peter Bond. Who are you and what do you make for a living?
Yeah, so my name is Peter Bond, and I make creatures and creature film for a living.
All right, so how does somebody get started doing creature making and creature film making?
Someone gets started by finding a lot of books and tutorials and just devouring them and learning a lot from the tutorials, and then buying a bunch of different type of materials, from fabric to foam latex to silicone, and figuring out how they all work.
You've been at this for a while, though, right? Like, you've been at it for longer than YouTube has been available to us, if I'm reading correctly.
So I used to sell real estate for like a long time, and I hated it. And it after having kids, I kind of went into a severe depression because of some psychological issues. And I finally started taking medication for it. And shortly after that, it just kind of opened up the creative side of my brain, or unshackled it or something. And so then I started playing with puppets with my son, and I just really got fascinated by it. And I was when I was a kid. But I had a head injury when I was a kid, and that kind of I don't know, it messed me up for a while. So I kind of came back to what I was when I was a kid after finally getting on this medication that kind of fixed my brain chemistry. I don't know. I made some sock puppets with my son, and then made some fabric puppets with my son. Got some patterns from a cool place called Project Puppet, which has just some kind of basic, easy to use tutorials and instructions on how to make like a Muppety style puppet. I quickly grew out of that. I wasn't a super big fan of sewing, and picked up some books on. There's a great book called Special Effects for Stage and Screen by Todd Rossini. And yes, this was before YouTube. Not the existence of it, but before everybody was showing you how to do everything on YouTube. They didn't have any tutorials on YouTube. But I did find this book, and it was fantastic. It is like the most in-depth. It's like a Bible of how and what to do with all these different materials. And then once you have this Bible and this kind of instruction manual on how to use them, then it's just all about spending money on materials and, fucking them up a bunch and wasting time and just failing a billion times, and then kind of starting to put together some decent looking pieces. Yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And there was there's like the beginning of the Stan Winston School online. They started doing some classes, I think maybe a year or two after I kind of got into it. So it was good timing. I did some courses there on like monster suit building, and met some cool guys. I met a cool Canadian there, actually. Tom Stewart. He's a puppet guy in Canada. And so I mean, that's how I got started.
Mm-hmm. But I'm curious about why you got started into puppets at all. I mean, I've got a 4-year-old kid, and I'm not into puppets. Like, were you always into creatures? Were you always into, I don't know, was there like movies that you were super into as a kid or something that really inspired you to kind of go down this path?
It's weird. I had like I said, I had a head injury when I was a kid, and so it just seriously derailed, I think, my path for a long time. So it's kind of hard to know what it was. But yeah, I do remember when I was a kid, but I don't know if all kids are into that sort of stuff. So it's like, so I wasn't very focused as like a adolescent or anything like that. But I did do like a cartoon strip that I got into like some college papers and stuff when I was in high school, early high school. So I mean, I did kind of enjoy stories and creating characters and things like that. I kind of I have some glimpses of like the things that I like doing now. I like have just glimpses of things that I used to do once in a while. But no, I mean, it wasn't like a major passion or anything. It was, I was an adult for like a good 10 years or so, and had kids and stuff, and had all this stress and anxiety, and then after I decided I hated that, my wife was going to go to nursing school so I could stop doing this thing that I hated. Uh, yeah, and like I said, it was just yeah. So I have OCD and ADD, and so I think you can either be haunted by that, or you can take hopefully find medication that works, and then you still have it, but like you can focus it, I guess. So I focused it. I was like, yeah, I like doing this, and I'm obsessed now. I'm going to take this OCD and I'm going to go down that path.
So is this something like you've given up real estate entirely? Do you make puppets and make creatures all the time? Is that your main job?
Yeah. So what the deal was we made a big change in life, and it was my wife was stay at home. I was making enough money to support the family doing real estate, which is first off like the worst possible career for somebody like me. I have no idea how I got into that because I'm like such an introvert. I hate socializing, but I don't know, whatever, it worked. But yeah, it was like it wasn't a 9 to 5. It was like I got to work for myself, and that was, I think, the main key. 'Cause I hated working for. I hated being shackled to like a time.
Like being in an office and stuck at the desk, all that kind of thing. Yeah.
And that might be the ADD, but yeah, it was just so. And sorry, I do ramble a bit, but
it's a podcast. We all ramble. It's the whole format is built for rambling. We're fine.
Yeah, there you go. You're gonna have to edit a lot of edits. I'll be like, yes, I was going to the store, and then so I just made it. I was done, and so I made a deal with my wife. I still had some things, some things I was able to generate a little bit of money. Just kind of like the last bits of my real estate career were still sort of alive, and I was closing a few things here and there, but I slowed down dramatically and was like, I'm just going to let this stuff kind of die out. We'll get what we can out of whatever I already put into it, but we had some savings, and so it was enough for her to go to school and me to kind of transition into the stay-at-home dad instead of being the stay-at-home mom. So that was really my job. So as far as my job, it was, I'm a stay-at-home dad, and I do this stuff. I do this stuff for fun, and it was all kind of about just playing with the kids at first. Making some puppets and playing with the kids, and then it was about. I thought it would be cool to do like a show for the kids, like a stage play for the kids, where they had these like kind of, because I was kind of I made a few decent looking creatures, like Star Warsy, Jim Henson, creature type stuff. They weren't just puppets, and I was like, hey, it'd be cool if kids could like get up close and interact and touch some of these characters and really get up close, not like you can in the when they're on the screen. And so I broached that idea to some local theaters, and they were like, well, yeah, I mean, it's a good idea, but you gotta write something first. You gotta write a play if you want to do it. And I'm like, okay, fine. So let me learn how to do that. So I wrote a play and like set it up where we had all these like projected background images and stuff, so we could do like a science fiction thing where things are moving and we're on the spaceship.
Oh, so you basically were doing like all the VR backdrop stuff that the Mandalorian's getting all the clout for. You originated that already years ago for theater.
Right, yeah. So then that's how they got the idea to me. They saw my show and they're like, that's cool.
Star Wars is always stealing from us.
Yeah, basically that is it. That was the setup. I was like, why have just these background or background set pieces when I could have them moving, especially if we're in space. So I did that, and I could then they wouldn't put it on.
Really? After you put the whole thing together, they wouldn't actually mount your show?
Yeah, I put the thing together, and then they no one ever got back to me. So I ended up going to like this. I was like this has been like the par for the course in my life is like, it's just been, well, fine, if you're not going to let me do it, I'll do it myself. So I found like a community center that would let me just have the MP room or something for like a weekend. And so I set up all these like lights. I made like lights out of spotlights out of oatmeal box things, and like lights. I stuffed them in. And I didn't realize actually I was using LEDs at first. And I think at one point I switched to like incandescent, and we were doing a rehearsal, and my actor just all of a sudden starts screaming. Apparently the hot glue was getting dripped onto his scalp and like burned his scalp. Because I was like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I had made those with hot glue.
Oh man, see, this is what happens when you're in a non-union show, non-equity,
right,
and exactly. You get glue on your head, and you can't even go to your rep.
Right. We don't have a very cardboard insurance company. Yeah, so that's so that's kind of, and now I've diverted from the question, I think, but that's kind of where I got started. Was just we I wanted to do the play, so I did it, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. We had a like really big turnout. The kids really had a blast, which was the main thing, and they oohed and awed and laughed at all the right points. And I was like, it's great. Okay, I think I did a decent story here, and I think I had some.
How did they know to come? Like, how did you let people know that there's this random puppet creature play that's going on in the MP room?
What did I do? I had like, I think the parks department had, I think it was mostly like friends and family, to be honest. It was like, my kids were in school, so we had like just a giant number of people with kids, that we knew at that. It was kindergarten. Everybody was interacting and stuff. It's not like now when we don't see anybody, but so it was just good timing. It was just good timing. So we just told everybody in school and stuff. And so I think mostly it was just that. We did at later points try and, as that crowd was like, we've seen it, we're probably, we've seen it. We're not going to come back for the second show. The crowd definitely dwindled, and we were trying to actually find, a new audience. And I remember dressing up in one of the giant creature suits I had, and like this walking puppet that I had on a leash, and a couple of various things. I had a bunch of my actors go out with me to Sacramento Zoo, out in front of the zoo. So I was like, that's where families hang out. And we handed out flyers and stuff. And we generated like one audience member out of that to a show of like 4 or 5 people. So yeah, it was fun. I thought it was an interesting time in my life, but it was not in any way successful. And it was a lot of work. It was too much work for not enough.
So what happened, after, mounting the show, having some success, having some notoriety, and then seeing the audiences kind of dwindle and stuff like that? Like, how did you pivot at that point? What did you do next?
So actually it was, so we'd kind of given up, and then shortly as I was like done, we did get an offer to do one more show at this new theater that was opening up. There was the nonprofit. They were opening up. They had like a nice stage, nice lights and stuff. And I was like, and they're going to pay me. So they paid me, and I was to just put on like a couple of shows, free shows for kids and stuff, which also not a lot of people showed up to those. I'd say maybe 20 or so. So it was a small crowd, but they had so we put together another nice show on a nice theater, and it was fun to do it actually in a theater. On a nice stage with lights, but lights that weren't made out of cardboard boxes. And we did that, and I had that, and I ended up having a new actor in one of the roles, and we had just been doing it, and we knew the script so well that I just okay. So let me go back. So I think after the initial play run, I then kind of got into writing. So the having to write the stage play got me into wanting to write screenplays. So I wrote some screenplays, and one of them I kind of liked, and got accepted into this local Access TV festival thing they have. And so I it was like the first one that I had done, and so I directed that. I got together with some people and directed that. and just I like had a blast. I loved it. So I was like, wow, I really like film. I think I want to keep doing film now, um, and I think I did another short after that, and I got to use the creatures in it, which again was really fun. And then then fast forward, we get the call to do the other version of Galaxy Express at this new theater. And our new actor, with the new actor who I had grown close to in doing some of the other stuff, some of the other film work that we had done, and so we did that. We did that run of Galaxy Express the play, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, hey, we know all the lines, you guys are fresh. How about we make this into a film, and just shoot a film version of it, a pilot episode. And I was kind of thinking on small scale. I was like, we'll just shoot it like, as if it's the play, sort of like a 3-camera sitcom instead of a 1-camera setup. And that was my initial idea. But then I was like talking to the Wall of America, Jimmy Kimmel guys, the producers there. I just signed up for Wall of America or whatever, and then I was showing them my puppets, and they wanted to do like a more special kind of skit because I had this Jimmy Kimmel puppet, and so they wanted to do like one of their I don't know if you know it, but it's these in between commercial breaks. Sometimes they have this like viewer of the week or something, and so I did one of those skits with them, and I kind of had I had talked to the head writer, and I was talking to one of the producers and stuff. And I was like, oh, you know what? Since these guys are like, I have their ear for a second, and I have their phone numbers here. Let's just make this let's go all out on Galaxy Express and make this like legit. So rather than doing it like just like a stage setup, I was like, we're going to build it 360. We're going to do the whole thing. So ended up building a bunch of flats and making them making it into a full 360 space station, and so we just did it right. I just built all these props and all these set pieces and all these walls and flats and and then we shot it right and did like a legit film.
So what's the state of it right now? Because I know you've got a Kickstarter up running right now.
Yeah. So the state of it right now is that so it's completely filmed. It's completely edited, with the exception of the VFX. So it was like my first real film, and I was like, hey, I'm going to do a film with like 200, composition clips. That's not a big deal. And we didn't. Unfortunately, we didn't do it. I was like, I'll just, green screen it. I know how to use key light, and we'll just key that out, and not gonna be a problem at all. And unfortunately, we didn't do a really good job on it. It was as far as that goes, we had a lot of spill, and I don't know that there was a solution, to be honest. I mean, I can't honestly say that had we been more prepared, we would have, had a solution, because we were in a small space too. It was a garage, 2-car garage. There's only so much distance we can get from that screen. So there was probably always going to be some problems, but basically that's where we're at right now. Yeah. So I was able to do pretty much everything, but I realized there was some VFX and compositing things that are just a bit out of my skill set. So now we're doing the Kickstarter to raise a little bit of money just to finish that off.
And so once you do get it done, what's the next step for this thing? I mean, you've got it in the can, you've got it cut. Let's say you once you get your VFX all finished off, where's it heading? What's it going to do for you?
Yeah. So I want to do, the festivals. I think I got to find out what the right festivals are. And, the ones that actually are worth doing, where, I could actually go to them and maybe meet some people. And
are there pro puppet festivals? Are there ones where like this kind of stuff is really going to shine?
There's the audience is so weird with puppets, because you say puppets and people automatically assume like Muppets, or hand puppets, marionettes or something like that. So it's such a hard sell. Yeah. It's like, no, it's not that. Like it's Labyrinth or Dark Crystal or Star Wars or Gremlins, they're creatures. They're not, they are puppets technically, but yeah, they're not puppets in that sense. So I don't know. I think like sci-fi, probably sci-fi festivals or something like that would be the thing. And I don't know where they are. Right. I mean, I know I know there are good ones that exist. I just haven't got there yet where I've researched it. But that's the plan. I want to show up to those places, see who I can meet, see what kind of connections I can make, and then. But it's a short, but it's also a pilot. So it's like 28 minutes. And that's the idea. It's like here's the pilot episode. We shot it ourselves. Let me show it to some people who might matter or give a shit. And I don't know. Maybe that'll work.
They see success is really just that intersection between might matter and give a shit. That's right. Basically, if you can find that Venn diagram, and you're the third, your work is the third part of that Venn diagram. That's the key.
There you go. That little sliver.
So the idea then, I guess, is hopefully you wind up selling the piece itself and like getting ideally commission to do more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, shit, I did it for like $4,000. So, and I guess not the VFX. We'll have to figure out what the price tag is. But I mean, even under $30,000, that's not, that's not the worst. I mean, we could do more episodes easy for, but that's the cost of. So, anyways, yeah, I could do it cheap. Is the point? So I could do it for cheap. So I don't know if that's appealing to people in the industry or not. I have no idea. Yeah, that's just an area I'm totally unfamiliar with.
Yeah, I mean, I think people want cost efficiency in, the producers and broadcasters want cost efficiency, but I think not at the expense of quality. Like, I think that, right. The idea is you make something good, it's going to generate money for all the people right. involved by way of advertisers and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's sort of a, talking with a lot of creators over the years, and specifically in, film and television type of world, I think a lot of creators are really interested in telling everybody how little it costs. But that's like saying to somebody, hey, do you want to buy my car? It's really cheap. And then nobody's going to want to buy the cheap car. But if you tell them you actually have a car that's great value, then you pique their interest. You tell them, I've got this $50,000
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, I think. Yeah, you don't want it. So yeah, saying, and I've heard that before, that like, hey, check out this movie. It was only made for this much money. That's kind of a turnoff. It's like, oh, well, no, I don't, that's okay.
Well, I think there's a very select few like who find that bit of information really interesting, right? Like, I like the idea of knowing that something was cheap enough to make that it's within reach for somebody to make it. You know what I mean? Especially for new filmmakers and for new TV, makers and creators and video makers. Like, it does have to be cheap enough for them to be able to make it, so that they can actually try to tell their stories. But at the same time, I think really most viewers are just interested in, is it good?
Yeah, totally. And I'm there too. I'm totally like, I see those films, on YouTube or what's the sci-fi one. But and I get turned off, if it's not either. But I mean, generally, I think it's the story. I don't think it's rarely the production value that turns me off.
Yeah, I mean, let's be fair. We've all watched that. I mean, you watch the old Star Treks, for example. It's like, they're, production value wise, they're unwatchable. It's ridiculous. It's clearly cardboard everywhere and stuff like that. But the stories were great. The ridiculous acting is excellent to watch. You actually buy into the silliness of the world that they've created, and so you can get into it.
It's campy a bit, or Red Dwarf. Are you familiar with Red Dwarf?
Red Dwarf was excellent. And I mean, that couldn't have been made for more than $3 an episode.
Right.
And it literally, I think everything was actually cardboard. I think the costumes were cardboard. I think everybody had, molten glue dripping on them all the time. But it was so bloody funny. It was so ridiculous. And the stories were so odd and fresh and different that when you see it the first time, you're like, this is just amazing. I mean, it's like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy falls under that. Doctor Who. I mean, all of those old BBC shows that were done, in the 60s and 70s and stuff, that were done on a dime, but the stories were so extraordinary. They really found their audiences. They really got people, and they had the ridiculous creatures. I always laugh with my brother. There's one Doctor Who monster I remember that was named a drosh egg, and it was actually just a refiguring of the word dish rag, because it's all it was made out of. It was dish rags. It's like, there's all this opportunity for creativity when the budgets are low, when you have to be really, innovative and stuff. But at the end of the day, your audience really just cares, is it great? Is it fun?
Right.
Is it awesome?
Well, and that's a good point. I was thinking that recently, that what is it about these CG heavy films, Marvel films and whatnot, that I'm not kind of connecting with. And I was thinking that if I'm writing a story, and I can do whatever the fuck I want because I know they'll just make it, they'll just make it happen. It sort of limits your creativity, because even though your creativity is open to whatever you want, you don't have those opportunities where you have those limits where you have to come up with something creative, so yeah, you have all this freedom, but there's nowhere to, be creative in filmmaking. Yeah, so you can be creative in the writing, but in the filmmaking, that's not creative, because you're not like, I don't know, it's not hard. There's nothing difficult that somebody can ooh and awe about. They're just like, yeah, they did whatever, like, $50 million on the computer. Great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's true. If you don't have something you're trying to overcome, it can be awfully difficult to even relate. I mean, for your average everyday person to think of a Marvel movie, I mean, I don't think it's until the credits that people actually appreciate the vastness of what goes on in a Marvel movie or in some high-end CG thing. When you see that there's about 30 minutes of credits and what, thousands, 1,500 people were involved. And you know what I mean? Like, there's somebody who was just in charge of the red coloring of the, Iron Man suit. You're like, what the hell? And that's, I think, when people understand some of the scope and stuff like that. Truthfully, 9 times out of 10, I think the amazing part is the project management side of it. I don't know how they actually managed to wrangle all those people to get all that stuff together.
You're right. Yeah, 100%.
But the imagination side, I mean, it's been seen time and again. You don't need that type of scope in order to capture an audience. I think that, I like those movies. I grew up on those Marvel comics. Like, I actually read them all growing up, and those were all my stories. And, so I like them because they've come to life, and I think they've done them justice, and they've created a good world and stuff. But it's not necessary. I mean, I also just watched The Princess Bride the other day with my 3-year-old, and there's no special effects in that of any note. I mean, there's the giant rats that come out of nowhere and attack them in the fire swamp. And it's all practicals. It's a guy in a rat suit. I mean, it's a ridiculous thing.
And it doesn't take away from it at all.
No.
You don't care. There's a suspension of disbelief, And as a kid, you're not thinking there's a guy in the rat suit. Yeah. So, sometimes it can go too far and it goes into camp land.
Sure.
But that's not, I don't think Princess Bride, I wouldn't say it's campy. It's fun.
I thought it was, pitch perfect. I thought it knew what it was doing all the way through. Like, it understood its humor. It let you in. It broke the wall when it needed to, but not all the way, that kind of a thing. And so, I mean, I think, again, if everybody, if the actors, if the director, if the editor, if everybody along the way is telling the same story and has a solid understanding of what they're trying to do, you can have a ridiculous tale, you can have a weird world or whatever else, but people can buy into it. They can join you there. It doesn't have to be 100% believable, like that, that the tricorder actually works for me to believe it. I think you just rely on the excellent acting of Sir Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, well, I think there's a rawness too when you take out those things, when you put people in scenarios where they have to be like, okay, well, I'm going to make this believable,
right?
Because I have to, and I don't have this, giant budget where they can just fudge it on the computer. But yeah, and just in the difference too. Like, I feel like if it's a real thing, you have individuality in it. You're like that. I can distinctly separate that film from this other film. Whereas, I'm looking at some of these CG things and I'm like, I don't know who the artist is, and that there's not like one artist that had a particular vision on that. That's just like, a giant mesh of how many thousands of artists actually. It's crazy.
Your experience with online tools and online environments like Kickstarter specifically, how are you finding that? Is that doing what you need it to do? And what's the ups and downs of trying to fund that way?
Yeah. Kickstarter. So I did try funding a while back, 6 months back, I think, on my own Kickstarter. And I just, I was like, I'll do this. I thought I had finished the trailer, and I thought the trailer looked really cool. I had actually spent some money to get those VFX done, just these couple of clips I needed, and came up with this, I don't know, what I thought was a cute, like a choose your own adventure type story, where we'd do some videos and they'd help us they'd help the captain of the ship get to this one spot, and you could choose, which direction you would take at different courses. And it didn't do very. We were only asking for 10,000, and we got like 2.5. So it was a fail. So I ended up hiring a coach, the Kickstarter guy, and spent about $1,500 doing that, and went through this like all this training and social media and it's just like basically take all the people in your project and get them to email everybody they freaking know at the start of this thing, and then get them to email them again, a bunch of times throughout the campaign, and because you're going to get these people that are initially interested. Who are going to support it, and then you're going to get all these slackers who will, I forgot, I didn't do it yet, I'm going to go do it, and they want to. And then you're going to get these really big slackers who won't do it till the very end. So it's just all about. So I think my interpretation of how it works, because I am kind of having a little bit of trouble, because I don't have a large team of people that are kind of working with me on it. It's basically me, my wife, and my parents. So we're reaching out to all the people we know. But if you have and also we have the film shot, so there's kind of maybe less incentive for some of our other team members to do it. I think if you did a Kickstarter before you did the project, you'd have like all the actors and everybody who really wants to be in the film and really wants it to happen are going to be like, you make them work a little bit before you give them dessert, basically. But if you have all those people, all these, if you have a lot of people reaching out to a lot of people, then yeah, you can totally fund something. It's just about like very consistent and constant, posting on Facebook. And so far, the 1,500 that I spent, it's been definitely worth it. We're about halfway through on our Kickstarter. So we're halfway funded and halfway through our timeline. And so hopefully, 15 days we'll actually meet our goal. I think we will, but we've slowed down dramatically.
What kind of advice do you have for somebody who wants to get into the creature game, or for that matter, filmmaking? What would you say to somebody who's just starting off?
Oh man, so I think you have to know that you are going to want to do that, and only that. So yeah, if you want to be a filmmaker, you want to be a creature maker, first figure out if you like doing it, and then just do it nonstop. And find the resources and play around. But I think more importantly, it is that I think a lot of that stuff is like you can make creatures, you can make you can get good shots, but I think people just need to know how to tell stories. That's like the main thing. Like if you have a creature, great, but if you can't tell a story with it, then that's not going to do you anything. If you have a nice camera and a nice cinematographer with all these pretty lights and stuff, you can shoot a girl smoking in a car and it's going to look good, but that's not a story. So you better know how to write a good story.
Where can people find out a little bit more about you?
A good way to find me on anything is Peter Bond Puppets. Will pop me up. But the website for the Kickstarter, which has like tons of photos and stuff and all sorts of information about the play we did and the film, is at galaxyexpress.world.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing with us how you make a living.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it.
Subscribe to Making a Living Show on Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, and pretty much anywhere else you get your podcasts. For more on the show, visit makingalivingshow.com and follow along on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Making a Living Show is produced by Next Exit Media and hosted by me, Roby Levy. Thanks for listening.